Good day, everyone. In this report, we will learn how media, culture, and globalization are connected. We will also see how media helps people all around the world share ideas, music, traditions. But before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered how people from different countries can watch the same movies, listen to the same songs, or even follow the same TikTok trends? If so, now we will explain it to you. If why, how it happened. But before we derive with the main topic, which is the global media culture, let me explain the each meaning of global media culture to avoid confusion. So, to begin with, let's start with what is globalization? Globalization means that people, countries, and cultures are becoming closer and more connected. We can now buy products, watch shows, and talk to people from other countries because of technology and trade. Let me give you an example for you to have much idea. When we enjoy K-pop, anime, or American movies, or Japanese music, Japanese movies, Chinese movies, that is globalization in action. So, let's proceed to media. What is media? Do you have any idea? So, let me explain it to you. Media are the ways we share information like TV, radio, newspapers, and the internet. Let me give you another example like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and etc. Media helps us learn what's happening in the world and lets us communicate with others. Let's say, for example, when we scroll through TikTok, watch news on TV, or message friends online, we are using what? A media. And now, let us proceed to culture. So, what is culture? Culture is the way people live, their food, clothes, language, music, and traditions. Every country has its own unique culture. Let's say, for example, here in the Philippines, we often eat rice. We love rice so much. We celebrate fiestas, sinulo, and say po and opo sa mga Tagalog. There naman sa Japan, people bow to show respect and they love to eat what? Sushi. So, again, to give you a small detail para mas dali ninyo ma-remember, globalization means that people, countries, and cultures are becoming closer and more connected, while sa media are the ways we use to share information. And sa culture, it is the way people live.
Let's proceed to global media culture. So, when we say global media culture, what comes in your mind? What is global media culture? So, global media culture explores the relationship between the media, culture, and globalization. This topic approaches part and current challenges concerning international communication and explores and problematizes the power of media representation. So, global media culture, this is all about how media connects people, cultures, and communities around the world. It studies how news, movies, music, and social media shape the way we understand each other and how can we interact globally. So, global media cultures create a continuous cultural exchange in which crucial aspects such as identity, nationality, religion, behavioral norms, and way of life are continuously questioned and challenged. So actually, ang gikuan diri nga continuous cultural exchange that is inevitable. Kaya nga naman, dili siya malikayan as long as nag-exist ang globalization. Sorry for that. As long as nag-exist ang globalization, as long as naay connection about what country is possible nga naay cultural exchange. For example, di ba, ang mga Pinoy, um, let's say, yes, hilig kaayo og um, mga K-drama. Ang mga Pinoy hilig kay K-drama, hilig kayo og K-pop group, di ba? But yeah, diri sa Philippines kay wala man na siya diri sa una, di ba? But because of globalization and of course with the existence of media, na-adapt na po na diri sa Philippines. For example now, we have the kanang gitawag na P-pop group nga which is Bini, di ba? And on the other side, if you could realize that some of our traditions are came from other countries. For example, culture of Americans or culture of Espanol. And these cultural encounters and involves the meeting of cultures with a different socio-economic base, typically a transnational and commercial cultural industry on the other side, and a national publicly cultural industry on the other side. So, global media promotes a restructuring of cultural and social communities. So, due to the very structural, global media promotes a restructuring of cultural and social communities. So, in the media such as mga press, radio, or kanang TV, they have been very important institution for the information and national communities. Another one is global media support decorative or decoration of new communities. For example, the internet, it is not only facilitate across the globe, but it also supports the formation and new social communities in which members can um, interact with each other. Sabta na everyone. So let's proceed. So media cultures take part in the process of globalization, including how they challenge existing cultures and create new alternative symbolic and cultural communities. It is made easier for advocates of globalization to reach larger audience through media such as television programs, social media groups, books, movies, and magazines. So, ang point ani diri is media cultures is a very big rule or important of globalization by sharing information and stories that challenge old culture and create new cultural groups. So, through media, people who support globalization can reach many others easily through different platforms like TV, television shows, social media groups, books, movies, and magazines. So these tools help ideas and cultures spread across borders, connecting people everywhere. So, ang example diri is, for example, ang kuan is kanang naay kanang popular kuan dito kanang show or television from other country nga kanang patok siya. So, ang kaning by media kanang through that kanang kung unsa man dito mo ni siya ang ma-influence ang mga tao on how that, like for example ang main character on how they dress, how they um talk with in other countries kanang is panalitan mo na ang kanang di ba patok man na dira ang katong salida na mga salida, like for example lives or sa to let's with tangerine ba to mo ba to wako kuha na basta mao na di ba mga patok man na mga K-drama or something like that nga patok niya through media ma-influence ang mga tao kung unsa na siya kuan mga ang mga famous lines on how they dress, how they talk, or mga ana, di ba? And or social media groups where people from different cultures share their traditions, creating new communities based on shared interests like fans or certain music or art or styles.
Oral communication. It allowed sharing of information. Language allowed human to communicate and cooperate. So, nakabutang man rin no, language allowed human to communicate and cooperate. So, kanang magdepende sad ta sa tawo nga atong kaistorya. Like example, nakiistorya ka kanang tawo nga English speaking. So, lain sad kayo kung magkanang Bisaya ka. So, dili man mo magkasinabtanay ana. So, kung unsa ang imong kaistorya kanang if kaya nimo nga mo adjust, so ito na lang sad like English speaking, so mag in English sad ka. Then number 2 is script. Script allowed human to communicate over a larger space and much longer times. So like example kana na program, then ikaw ang speaker, so need you kag script para dili magkasimang-simang or kanang mga maglibog na ka kung unsa ang isunod nimo istorya inana. Number 3, printing press. This is where information revolution started. It transformed social institutions such as schools, churches, governments, and more. So printing press transformed human communication by creating a more connected, literate, and intellectually dynamic society. Electronic media. Radio and television are part of this media. Radio quickly became a global medium, reaching distant regions. Then television is considered as the most powerful and pervasive mass media. It brought together the visual and audio power of the film with the accessibility of radio. So sa radio kay kanang kuano pala kanang sa pani pareha sa kanang sa una, so wala pa ang television, so ang ilahang gamit sa kanang communication is radio. Then karon nga nanay television, so mas maklaro pa gid natong mayong information nga dili lang kay nadungog na to, then makita sad. Number 5 is digital media. Many of our earlier media such as phones and televisions are now considered digital media. Kay kanang di ba sa kanang karon nga panahon is ko inspiration. Sa karon nga panahon kay kanang kuan man sa television kay magtan-aw ta din kanang kanang madungog, so dili ta maka-comment or sa tuang kanang kuan ba sa tuang hibaw-an sad. So karon sad nga ni match ni upgrade na gani nga na mga phones which is kanang maka-comment ta, maka-express na ta sa tuang nahibaw-an or sa tuang like feel na to about ana kanang kuan na information. Sige, next. Nabuang. Important impact of media on cultural globalization and global imaginary and global village. So, important impact of media on cultural globalization. The media provide an extensive and transnational transmission of cultural products. So, kanang ang impact sa cultural globalization, napakalito ka ni, is kanang nag-provide siya o kanang grabe nga kanang kanang siyempre pa-exchange sa kanang mga products, mga inana. So, kanang ang cultural globalization is kanang first is naka-provide siya og kanang extensive transnational transmission of cultural products like kanang sana far-reaching exchange and dissemination of cultural products, information, and media across multiple countries and borders. Then number 2 is they contribute to the formation of communicative networks and social structures. Then global imaginary and global village. Global imaginary, the globe itself as imagined community. Global imaginary manifests culturally, politically, and ideologically, often expressed through visual culture, media, and symbols that cross national borders, creating a shared global identity. Example is global brands, protest movements, and global media imagery illustrates how global interconnectedness influences people. Global village, the world considered as a single community, linked by telecommunications. So in the essence, the global village captures the phenomenon of increased connectivity and communication that leads to a more independent and culturally intertwined world.
Let's proceed to the dynamics of local and global culture. Next slide, please. So, what is global product mean? Global products are those products that are marketed internationally under the same brand, name, features, and specifications across countries. So, ang global products is kana mga mapalit nimo nga product which is consistent ang branding, ang features throughout different countries. So, for example, Apple products, mga iPhone. Generally speaking, they're the same across countries with the only real difference being pricing since namanggid na sa importing sa import nga different tariff nga na. Pero ang main aning feature makita nimo sa global product is the same name, the same feature, the same specification. So walay mabag-o nila nga unsay internal nga buhaton, unsay features, unsay mabuhat ana nga butang, unsay i-offer ana nimo. So mao na ang global product. Next slide. Now let's go to local product. What does it mean? These are goods and services such as arts, literatures, architectures, museums, movies, music, etc. that showcase the history and information which belong to the country's cultural heritage. So local, as the name suggests, dili na siya pareho sa global nga tanan country naa na siya. Ang local is exclusive to that specific nation. So, for example, sa ato ang music. So, sample kinsa may mga kuan, sikat nga kuan, Filipino nga music artist. Kana Bino nga kuan na sila. Their music are local cultural products which this is because gikan sila sa Philippines, they make their videos in the Philippines, they make their music in the Philippines, and their main audience is obviously the Filipino people. Now, literature. Let's look at El Filibusterismo and No Limitang rin ni Jose Rizal. Those are also local cultural products since they were made by a Filipino for the Filipino people to read. And same with arts, which maybe dili kay heavy ang art sa Philippines, less known ang mga names. However, paintings, drawings, or other similar art pieces that are made in the Philippines are also under the local cultural products. Next slide, please. So these are the examples, no? Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Apple. So most of these images are of global products. However, these corporations also have some products that are exclusive to the local community, such as ours, like different menu items or flavors. Now, next slide. Now, here are the free perspectives on global cultural flows. First is the cultural differentialism. Emphasizes the fact that cultures are essentially different and are only superficially affected by global flows. It also involves barriers that prevent flows that serve to make cultures more aligned. Cultures tend to remain stubbornly different from one another. So, basically, the point of cultural differentialism is that while globalization and trades or other relations with other countries may show us some slight influences, our cultures will stay unique and different. It won't really be affected as heavily, which we can see it So the Philippines, we are kusog ta mo tagkilik og overseas nga products like iPhones, Samsung, even kanang sa fashion naa na mga kuan designer nga brand or bisag non-designer basta imported nga brand. Pero makawisi nga ang kanang mga apparel sad nga kuan kanang mga Filipiniana, barong Tagalog, it still stays the same. Or also ang mga kuan nato culture like sinulog, we notice that na naay mga naatay mga mahitabo sa atong nation through globalization na mga mabago. However, ang culture sa sinulog still stays and it doesn't seem to get replaced, di ba? So mao na ang point sa cultural differentialism, which is to say nga stubborn ang cultures, they will remain and stay that way for a long time. Now, the second one, cultural hybridization, is a process by which a cultural element blends into another culture by modifying the element to fit cultural norms. So, it is an integration of local and global cultures. A key concept is localization, or the interpretation of the global and local, resulting in unique outcomes in different geographic areas. So, ang cultural hybridization is, ang iyang idea is, instead of sa cultural differentialism nga unique gihapon ang culture, cultural hybridization aims to, ang iyang aim nga ingnon is ang cultures of one nation and another nation nga maybe na ay relations sa nga nation is makuan sila mo integrate into one another. So imbes na slight influence lang, maybe ma-mix. So makita na nato sa music kanang sa K-pop, J-pop, P-pop kanang dagham na nga makakita ta nga magtan-aw ka sa performance, maka-notice ka na ay influences sa American culture or hip hop culture in general. You can see nga they use it very heavily. However, you also see nga there are very noticeable nga Filipino cultures in which they integrate into those things. Or let's see, movies, we can see in the movies as well. Makita ta sa movies nga compare nato ang movies nga daan is kuan sila, dili kay sila murag uniquely Filipino sila, they are different. Pero the longer kanang the movie industry has been in the Philippines, we can notice nga mo integrate gyud ta og kanang western or other nga nations nga influences, which is maka-affect sa unsay content sa mga butang. Even literature na to makakuan siya, maka-notice ka kung magbasa ka na nagid siya ay mga western or other nation nga influence. So basically mahog siya nga gimix ang duha ka culture. Next slide please. Cultural convergence. This approach stresses homogeneity introduced by globalization. Cultures are deemed to be radically altered by strong flows, while cultural imperialism happens when one culture imposes itself on and tends to destroy at least parts of another culture. So, as the cultural convergence states that stresses homogeneity, which means ang mahitabo is mausara sila. So silbi few sila nga mahimo na sila more or less indistinguishable from one another. Basically ang mahitabo is because interaction from one culture to another culture, ang mahitabo ana is tungod sa influence nila, they become less distinguishable because mo take sila sa feature sa other nga culture and that other culture also takes from the culture of the other culture. So magsilbi tungod sa ilang exchange, they become more and more similar and become less different. So makita na nato sa kanang kuan sa mga fast food restaurant like all around the world, no? We can see nga sa McDonald's, ang McDonald's na everywhere, dili lang ingon sa US or sa Philippines, they are everywhere na. You can see them, as well as kanang style sa clothing. Makabantay ta nga ang normal nga style sa clothing karon is wala na yung more specific nga culture nga nagikan mo siya, i-take na siya o influences from many different cultures, fuse them into one, which led to them basically being unique. They're not tied to one specific nation. We can think of this as basically think of it as slowly becoming the same, more or less. Not exactly nga completely the same, but at least cultures are similar enough that they become near identical. So that's it.
So let's proceed to globalization. So ang kanitang globalization comes from combining globalization and localization. Mao na siyang globalization. Kay globalization o localization. It shows how culture around the world are constantly mixing because they meet and influence each other more than today. But unlike the idea of local cultures are disappearing or becoming weak, localization tells us the local cultures are actually strong and always changing. So man is just reinforces the fact of local cultures are not weak mo na siya, and they are built and understood anew each day in globalized world. So for example, diri kanang global fast food chain like McDo, since worldwide brand man siya, so mo adapt siya sa menu nga fit sa local. For example, kita mga Pinoy, like for example sa spaghetti, hilig taog ka ng, di ba, tamis, I like ka ng murag makuangan taog dili kayo kanang lami ang spaghetti, like dili kayo tamis. Kita mga Pinoy hilig tamis. Yeah, for example sa mo ni sa McDo mo na siya sa spaghetti diri sa tuwa nga murag tamis niya. Worldwide brand man siya. So dito sa other country nga kanang McDo, i-fit food nila ang menu nila kung unsa ang tao dito, kung unsa mga interest or like ilang mga taste, kung unsa na dito. Like for example sila kay dili kaayo like kuan dili kayo more on in kanang tamis nga taste ilaha or something like that. Yeah, for example pud kanang fast food nga kanang diri sa tuwa kay daghang fast food nga kanang only rice, di ba? Only rice kay mga Pinoy hilig kayo og rice, dili mabuhi nga walay rice ang mga Pinoy. So dito sa other country mo na siya ang kuan ilang nga fast food, i-fit food nila dito nga mga like for example mga American dili kayo hilig og rice, more on kuan sila burger, di ba? Daghan sila mga burgers dito. And I hope nga naka-understand ra mo about sa localization nga kanang again ang localization comes from the word globalization and localization. Thank you.
So, hopefully you gain knowledge from our report, everyone. So this is me, Jikanaya C. Torres, and the next one is Sarina Supsup.
I'm Pamela J. Trania.
And I am Dwight Carlito Mongha.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for listening.
Keep safe, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.